and the sea will grant each man new hope, as sleep brings dreams. As well. Christopher Columbus.
Welcome to the New World, sir.
Hello, hello, hello. It is Wednesday, October 4th, 2023. Thank you for joining me for Writing Wednesday. Today, I actually have a special guest. With me today is Wesley James. He's written some stories, and hopefully we'll have some more stories coming out soon. We're going to be talking about a little more about his books, a little bit about my books, and what we're writing here, and maybe even jump on to Twitch to help him out a little bit. So yeah, welcome, James. Leslie, how are you doing? That's good. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. Absolutely. Yeah, I can talk about writing pretty much all day, and I do too, because I mean, I don't know about you, but I have several Discord channels that are dedicated to writing, and I participate in those conversations quite regularly. No, the well of creativity.
While you're writing it, you get in that routine, you just want to plow through it because, I mean, I guess I've always heard, write that first draft, start to finish, and it's just, I can't do it.
Right.
I have to refresh my well too, like you said.
What up, Flufficus? Welcome in.
Hello, my friend. Stay a while and listen.
Oops. I'm gonna get a smacko there. I'm trying to figure out sound here, making sure people can hear you.
I hear he's pretty low.
All right, why don't you give me something? Say something real quick.
Me or him?
You.
Mike Kiss. Hello, Mike Kiss. That sound good?
I'm not picking it up for some reason.
Oh, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, pump it up a little bit for me.
Okay, now I'm maxed out. How's that? And I can also move it closer to my mouth too. I'm looking at about 16 inches right now on this condenser mic. Feel low?
Yeah, for some reason I'm not picking you up on my
Oh, the feed's not coming through to the
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely gonna be on your end. You got your Discord map to your.
Oh, I can hear you on my phone, so sounds like it's all right. Flufficus, how's it sound out there?
You sound good. We got two in a stream. I don't know if that's you and me.
I don't know. I don't pay attention to those numbers. They're inaccurate. Can you hear the guest speaker, Flufficus, by any chance?
I can't hear. Yeah, there's somebody else chatting.
No.
I heard somebody downloading.
Oh no, she can't hear you. Oh, my bad. Okay, that was my bad. Now try it.
Hello, hello, hello.
There we go.
I am hearing back.
I had you on mute. That was my bad. Now you should be fine.
That would be
There we go.
a thing.
That was my bad. That was my bad. I had you muted. So Flufficus, I do have Wesley James here with me today. He's a good friend of mine. He's a writer as well, working on his first published works. And yeah, so I invited him on. We're gonna do some talking about some writing, and just see where it kind of goes. He's a fellow gamer as well. He's got his own Twitch channel, Agent in Charge TV. I will drop that in the chat there. There we go. Make sure you give him a follow.
Cool.
And yeah. So how's your so I know you don't do a lot of writing often, but oh, we got a new follower too. Welcome in.
Hello, my friend. Stay a while and listen.
Sophie's of Gaming? I hope I got that right. Thank you for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Yeah, welcome to the fray.
The fray, exactly. So how do you restore your creative well?
You know what? The biggest thing I do is read. You know, that's the biggest thing I do is I read.
Mhm.
And Flufficus just followed me on my Twitch channel.
Nice. Yeah.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Yeah, Flufficus is a very good friend of on my Twitch.
Cool. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That means a lot. But yeah, I read, and you know, while I'm reading authors that I love and followed for years. But I not only read, but I'll like reread, and I'll read into what they're doing and how they're communicating. And
is there a particular genre or book that gets your mind flowing in a certain direction?
you know, I like Craig Johnson Longmire. I like David Michael Conley, Bosch. He's got a couple different series. I like them. Who else? Stephen Hunter. Like Stephen Hunter. It's about a lot about military and snipers and stuff like that. So I guess it's kind of an action-y detective, crime drama action. I don't know, along those lines. I do have a bunch of John Grisham. Yeah, and just it's a wide range. I'm not going to be a good romantic, fantasy romance like remember the Harlequins and stuff like that. That's not going to be me.
Yeah, Flufficus says she likes Harry Bosch as well. Flufficus is also a writer. She's been actually helping me out quite a bit with the outline that we have up here in front of me. But yeah, no, she's, whatever gets the creative well refilled, I'm all for it. My thing is, going on a cruise or going on a vacation or something, I seem to do my best writing and most of my writing when I'm not bogged down by adulting.
Yeah,
You know?
I get that. I'm trying to get you heavy on my phone, but I'm trying to get it to my monitor.
Gotcha. And
There we go. Got you to my monitor. I wanted to be able to see the outline.
so besides romance, you kind of touched on a kind of a subject that I wanted to ask you about, because romance for me is also the same thing, and I've been told that romance is like the coin, the flip side of horror. Do you ever find yourself maybe going and branching off into a different genre that you might not have before?
Well, I've got an idea for a book. I've had this idea for this book for ages, and for the book to be successful and follow in the way that I've written it, or envisioned it in my head, I guess I should say, that there has to be more than, I don't know, modicum. It has to be more than a casual amount of romance to it, and so that's probably the reason why I haven't put words to paper, is because I'm not quite sure how I want to approach that part of it.
Makes sense.
But I mean, it's there. I've ran it through my head 100 times, and I actually think it's a great idea, concept for a book.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen it done in the movies. I've never seen it done in another book, but I have to reach out or whatever, stretch my goal or my abilities to be able to put it to paper. And so
it's always a learning process, even no matter what genre you write in. To me, it's always you have to strive to be better. You're always learning either how to edit or build a scene. There's still things that I learn on a constant basis, even when I'm in the middle of writing something. I'm like, I get told a different direction, not necessarily told, but I get shown different or better direction of how to write a scene or a sentence or a paragraph, or use different words.
Yep. I totally get it.
For example, like this outline that I've got here up in front of me here, I am a pantser. I am a hands down. Just drop me in front of a screen with a keyboard, and I will write something pantser. But this this outline here, as Flufficus can attest, it took a tribe to get this much down, because it's just not something that I ever think about, and exactly, Flufficus, Pantsers unite. But yeah, and so do you what are you? What camp are you? Pantser or plotter?
Well, I was a pantser up until the last novel that I'm currently writing, and I started writing a novel, and then I kind of got stuck, and then I just went back. I was watching an interview with Lee, the guy who does the Jack Reacher. I was watching an interview with him. He's a pantser, but he was talking about creating outlines, sometimes help bring you out of a funk, I guess. And so that's what I did. I was totally at a point where I didn't know which way I was going. And so I sat down and I said, okay, I want a 17-chapter book.
Mm-hmm.
And, so then some of the chapters are just like a chapter, but then some of the chapters are, half of it's a protagonist and half of it's an antagonist. So it's kind of chapter 2A and 2B, if you know what I mean.
Right.
So then I went through and created, and then I'm like, wow, I kind of wrote this book in an outline, and now I've just got to fill in all the detail.
Right.
And then when I start writing it, well, at some point, some of it may not make sense no more. So you got to be fluid enough to, okay, well, maybe the outline needs to be upgraded.
and
Yeah.
and that kind of touches on why I don't like outlines particularly, is because it does seem constraining and it's not fluid enough. And there are instances and times when characters just go off of on their own and need to breathe,
Yeah.
to make it
Oh
feel.
yeah.
And
Sometimes the story develops on its own.
right, exactly. The process for me, and the thought process for this outline was, because I'm changing into a suspense genre and a mystery genre, a la, Agatha Christie or Sherlock Holmes or something like that. Was I kind of need to know all of these plot points and threads and red herrings, so to speak, and stuff like that. So it made sense to kind of try my hand at an outline. Going forward, I don't know if I'd be able to maintain it because, as Fluffacus points out, it's a lot of work. And while I'm not against doing work, it just seems needless because, a lot of this stuff is going to come up during the course of the story anyway. But, I can see it being needed for maybe what I should do instead of having this in-depth outline that I've got here is maybe kind of like pare it down, where it's just giving me the points where I know I'm going to have a hard time fitting in, like the red herring or the evidence trail or the suspects, those types of things. Maybe that's what I should do going forward. But the way that we have this outline right now, I just don't see it being sustainable in my current writing method anyway.
This is going to be, and I know you probably have heard this, but there's a book out there. It's called, I don't want to be giving too many other people, whatever exposure, but it's called Save the Cat, Write a Novel.
Oh yeah, I think I've heard about that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That has pretty insightful. It kind of, at the first, there was somebody in Hollywood that was writing scripts for movies, and so then they started doing this study on all the successful movies out there, and then they learned that every successful movie out there followed the exact same pattern.
Yeah.
For a movie to be successful, this had to happen, and they started studying it, and they found where this happened at a certain point in the movie, and this happened at another point in the movie. So they literally put it down into a system where this happens by from 10 to 30% of the book. If you know how big your book your goal is, 100,000 pages, then between 1 and 30,000 pages, this and this happens,
right.
And it just, then when you look at it from a 5,000 foot view, you can see a pattern there, and you don't necessarily have to do it like that, but
and I think
that your book may already have something like that.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, I think that's where you would lose me too, because I've read how to write books before, specifically Stephen King, and I think John Grisham had one. I think I read one of his, or not John Grisham. Yeah, John Grisham. And to me, it was too much of do it my way, and while it might have some good tidbits in it, I felt that it was more, it worked for him. It's not necessarily going to work for me, and also probably a little bit of, I'm not going to listen to you, Dad. Go sit down, Dad. The rebellious teenager in me didn't really want to pay attention to what because I mean his getting found moment happened 40 years ago or so, right? So
yeah, in a total different world.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not exactly gonna sit down and write his way, precisely.
Well, you can, rather than buying somebody's book, you can literally find this little sheet on the internet, and it's,
So
it's not a book. It's just kind of like a chart. and it shows percentages and I guess a summation of what happens in that period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as Flufficus points out, he did do pantsing quite a bit, and he did, but how do I put this politically correct? he did so with assistance of external stimuli.
Oh yeah,
so yeah, and if you actually look at some of his older writings and stuff, it kind of
twisted.
it kind of shows, because thinking thinking about how you would write some of the scenes and stuff now is kind of questionable, right? It's a different world, like you said, and it's a different time, and the mentality of it is a little different as well. And that brings me to my other point, and it's something that you just touched on a little bit about the internet, was that you have to be really careful about what you find on the internet, because one of the things that I've learned recently over the last 5 years, and even getting into the self-publishing world and doing the majority of work myself, is that during the course of my learning how to write and do so in a manner that would get me published by traditional publishing houses, was that there's a lot of misinformation out there, and you have to really be careful on what you or how you learn, where you take in some of that learning material.
There's a lot of people out there are just publishing stuff to make money, and they're not really giving you valid information.
Well, yeah, not only that, but it may not be, I don't want to say correct, because it worked for them, and that's fine, but it's not necessarily the proper way, I guess. Let me bring an example here for you. Narratives, right? When I was learning to write, I was told absolutely no narrative whatsoever. You have to show, not tell type of situation. But come to find out, decades later, there are ways and reasons and places you would want to have a narration type situation, especially in third person omniscient, which is pretty much what I write in. So, I had basically written everything that I've, done up until this point without any of that. And so there was a lot of missed opportunity for emotion and outcome, and even where the characters were at a particular time. There's because a lot of that stuff I took out because I was too worried, I was hyper focused on doing it what I was told was the right way, and come to find out it wasn't. So you really have to kind of be careful and be mindful of what you're learning. Double check your sources. Maybe even check your notes with On Writing by Stephen King. I'm not poo-pooing what Stephen King's done, but
so one thing, I have the On Writing by Stephen King, and I've listened to it, and I have learned one person's opinion. I mean, it's true. He sold more books than anybody almost, and he's one of only 2 or 3, as he said it himself, but it's still true, authors that command more than $1 million advance payment.
Right.
Given that, there's still I don't know what you want to call it. For example, he talks about what was it he was talking about, that part of passive, the way you use passive verbs, and he's like, no, absolutely not. If you can't write something without using a passive verb, then you have no command of the English language, blah 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 blah.
Right.
Well, I hear that, and then I also know Craig Johnson, and I'll chit chat back and forth with him. So after I heard that from Stephen, the next time I was talking to him, I kind of brung it up with him, and he said, I said, well, Steven says in it, no passive verbs. And his reply was, he says, there's a time and a place for everything.
Right.
And to say that having a passive word in your book is against, he says, no. He says, sometimes that's what's required to get what you're trying to say across to the reader.
Right. Yeah.
And so he said, no. He says, I don't look at it like that. So I mean, there's just a point being is, what one person tells you is not necessarily what everybody believes.
Right.
It's just one person's opinion.
Yeah, and there are times, like you were kind of touched on a little bit, is that there are times for bending the rules, so to speak. And you just have to know when and where those are conducive to the story, like you said. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I have kind of a love-hate relationship with Stephen King as it is, so.
I think some of his earlier works, probably when he was doing cocaine, are better than his later works.
Yeah, a lot of people point that out. A lot of people think that, and it's kind of funny in a sad sort of way. If you think about it, a lot of writers that made it big and are prolific in their field or genre were on some sort of external, thing. Shoot, what's his name? There's Stephen King. There's God, what's his name? I went to his house. The guy down in Florida Keys. Ian Fleming. I don't think he was.
Oh.
No, I don't think he was. Now that I think about it. But yeah, I mean, there was quite a few of them that were. God, it's gonna drive me crazy now. I'm gonna have to look it up. What was the guy's name? Hemingway. Hemingway was definitely on. He was alcohol, I think. His was. Yeah. So what are you working on right now? You said you wanted to work on something that was outside of your genre. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? What is it that you want to work on?
Well, it's just kind of hard for me because to give a high level synopsis on it would be to.
No, I mean, like, what kind of genre is it? Is it fantasy? Is it science fiction?
Well, let me see if I can think of something that's. So, closest thing I can think of that comes to something like it that some people can relate to is remember Romancing the Stone?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So it's not a funny romance comedy with a lot of, I forget who was it, Kurt Russell. But it's similar. It's got a level, a degree of action adventure where, a protagonist meets a love interest, and throughout the course of things that he has to do, she keeps meshing into the story, and at some point, they progress. I don't know where that'll be.
No,
yeah,
Romancing the Stone and whatever the follow-up, Jewel of the Nile.
So it was kind of
great movies.
Action, but it's still got more intrigue than those movie scripts had. And well, at least I hope it does. But that's as close as I come without saying too much.
That's awesome. Yeah, you know what? In my opinion, there are particular genres that are lacking, and I think that's one of them. The kind of the romance adventure type stories set in the romancing the own kind of storytelling. You know, the way it was told. Another one would be like the outline that we've got here in front of me is the type of mystery that uh, cares a lot about the location. You know, all because if you look back on like Agatha Christie, you know, Murder on the Orient Express, Murder on the Nile, those were those were mysteries, of course, but it was also had the scene and the location was part of the character of the story itself. You know, even Sherlock Holmes to some degree had it, you know, and that's kind of what I want to bring back. That's kind of what I was hoping for in this particular outline was to kind of focus on some of that.
Yeah.
So are you so you are do you have anything currently you're working on right now that you're trying to get out?
I'm trying to revise the one that I got back from the publisher,
Mm-hmm.
and basically was told that part of the storyline was not a favorable trending subject these days, which is fine. I get that,
Uh-huh.
and so I'm doing that a little bit, but I'm not in too much of a hurry because it really hurts me to gut a story, I guess.
So if
So it's
do you plan on taking it somewhere else, or do you just plan to self-edit it, or I mean self-publish it?
it's probably going to end up being a self-published. I think I mentioned to you I wanted to invest in a really great cover artist
Mm-hmm.
and see
So
where it goes from there.
so then why would you think you need to gut it then?
Well, because I also believe what they say could be true. I mean, plus you have there's some competing authors who have come on the scene since I started that, and it's kind of changed the whole. Well, now I don't feel unique. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So are you when you go to think of a story and you write about a story, or one comes to you, are you more of a find something that'll sell, an outlier that'll sell, or are you more of just writing what you want?
Yeah, I think I know what you're saying. Do I go research what the hottest topic is, or
Right.
potentially uptrending? No, I mean I don't think I know enough about or have the capability of producing something that much on demand that quick. I have to like what I'm writing about and what I know, and
Yeah.
uh, I have to have some experience, with firsthand. If not firsthand, I have to have a good working knowledge of what I'm writing about.
Right. Writing to market, as Flufficus pointed out. Yeah. And those aren't necessarily bad things either. I know plenty of authors that try to do that.
I would like to be able to. I just I don't know. It's something, I feel like I would probably, if I had a quick way of getting things to market, but I don't.
Yeah.
And getting things edited, copy edited, all that stuff and formatted and laid out for self-publishing, on a scale that's a book, I guess you would say a novel, let's say, 120,000 words. I mean, that's not an easy task.
That's a big boy.
Yeah. I mean,
and that's one of the
my
other.
last one went to them at 90,000 words, and they sent it back to me at 60,000 words.
Holy shit.
And then
Jeez.
I sent it back to them at like nearly 80, and then we settled around 73,000.
Good grief. That's
But
crazy. I mean, I can understand cutting some stuff out. I'm of that mentality that I'm going to have my novel gutted too, but that's a lot because 90 for the genre that your novel is not horrible. It's on the higher end, but cutting 30,000 words is just
yeah,
crazy. That's that's a little excessive in my opinion.
so whenever the first thing when it comes back and you look at it, holy crud! You feel like someone just violated you.
Yep.
You
Well,
know,
I mean, actually, I can't really say that because I don't know. Because the few times that I've actually had editors work on my stuff, they make good suggestions and I've not no problems. But they didn't change or delete whole swaths of story unless there was a reason. Like if it was repetitive, like things like that, then because I know I'm repetitive, so if that was the case, then I was usually fine with it. But there would have to be a whole lot of I don't know. So can you tell us what was deleted usually in those 30,000 that you know?
I mean, I believe about half of what they sent back in the edits was, I was just picking the wrong time to give too much information. Uh, and some of it they just didn't feel like. Basically, it was told to me in not so many words. Some things you have to leave to the reader's imagination because every reader is going to add their own.
Right.
And if you tell it all in such a fashion that you ruin it for the reader, well, then the reader no longer has any say in the book that he's reading. I guess if that makes any sense.
The investment in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean that kind of makes sense. You do have to kind of leave that up to the reader sometimes. I feel I do a pretty good job in that. Maybe even too much to some degree, but yeah, no, I can see that. So
So
so you're a
that's
gamer
basic.
too.
Oh, I love to play games.
Yeah.
I just recently, I was gaming like at the first of the year, and then work got too busy, and so then I took off and I was
Adulting.
streaming,
Adulting sucks.
and so then I took off for a while, and I stopped streaming, stopped gaming, and then one day I'm watching a guy playing hardcore, WoW hardcore.
Uh
I'm like, you know what? That looks challenging. And might be interesting because it's the original vanilla WoW from 2004, which is when I first started playing WoW. So I
right.
knew it was hard to begin with, and then they added hardcore on top of it. And well, I played it. I've got a 20 Frost Mage on hardcore who hasn't died.
Yet.
But then I started a priest, and he died at level 12, and I'm like, oh man, I was so mad. So I transferred to him to White Mane PvP and kept playing him, and I just kind of moved from hardcore to White Mane to PvP, open world PvP server.
So what kind of games do you generally? What kind of games do you generally like? The genre.
I like World of Warcraft. I like Valheim, which is a survival game. I like Cyberpunk. I haven't played the second one yet, the second release yet.
Oh, the expansion.
Yeah, I haven't done that yet.
Yeah, I need to get that.
I tried Baldur's Gate, but I think I told you before, I'm just not a turn-based game player anymore.
Uh-huh.
And I like it to be fluid, interactive, and constant. And then what else?
Did you pick up Counter-Strike 2 when it was free?
No, I didn't. I didn't.
Oh man.
I was doing COD. I was doing a whole bunch of COD.
Yeah, well, I know that's why I suggested it or asked because I know you like Call of Duty. It was free. I don't know if it's still free. I don't think it is. But that's right up your alley, I thought. Have you?
Yeah, I just haven't gotten back to it. COD. What kind of got me off track on COD is just the sheer amount of content that they're pushing all the time.
Oh, right. Yeah, that was one
Yeah,
of the. That is kind of a downside to having the seasons, especially as fast as they seem to be pushing those out, like you mentioned.
well, it seems it's getting faster.
Yeah, because it changed even when I installed it and went back several weeks later. It changed again. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? I don't even know what I'm doing now.
Yep. No, it's exactly one of the reasons why I just put it aside for a while and
So,
just had to give it a rest. And now it's done moved like 2 more seasons, and they've got Modern Warfare 3. It either just got released or it's about to be released. So
I think, yeah, I don't know. I don't follow Modern Warfare. I don't follow either one really. I don't really play those.
yeah, so I don't know. I just kind of had enough of it for now, and I really enjoy uh Valheim. I do,
Hmm. Yeah, I wish I
but
could
it's
could have gotten into Valheim. I don't know what it was about it. It it was too simplistic, but also at the same time it ramped up too hard, too fast. I don't know. It just wasn't for me. Which is weird because I like survival games most of the time, depending on what it is, but yeah, for some reason I just couldn't get into it.
yeah. Oh, I like it. I think that some of the features of it is, like the building features. It's
Yeah,
just amazing in the
the
game.
the building is probably its strongest um thing
Yeah, no, I
because
understand totally.
you know
It's
I
better played with more than one person, though. I do know
oh
that.
yeah, I can see that.
Yeah,
It's definitely better than Ark. It's
yeah.
slightly better than Conan. I, I do like Conan's a little more just because it's got a little more
I like the Conan because of I
prettier.
guess the medieval.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
yeah. Well, I like
I'm
Conan.
calling it medieval.
I,
There might be another
I
word
like
for it.
Conan because I can basically add quests and do all that fun stuff that I like. Doing creating stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Some of the Valheim, like the bosses, are just incredibly hard.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think I only beat the first one, the deer. I think
yeah.
I think
That's the easy. They just well then like the next one, the Elder. It's a big old tall tree.
yeah, no,
You
I
know,
didn't get that
it can
far.
be beat too. The secret to that one is to bring fire arrows.
Yeah, no. As soon as I started to try to get into the dark forest area, those stupid things over there just kept killing me, wherever they were, and I was just like, forget it. I'm done.
Yeah. Let's talk about this. Sitting here, kind of going over this outline.
Oh yeah, you reading it? Reading the outline?
Yeah. Well, I'm just kind of as I'm talking and listening to you talk, I'm just kind of scanning it. Uh, see, Act One. How many pages is this outline? I guess first.
But 7 pages so far. It's
You say Act One. Is Act One a combination of chapters, or is it?
right. So it'll be so. This book will have to be in the range of, I think I said 60,000.
Yeah.
Long, yeah, it's long, as Flufficus points out. Uh, so that means that because I write about 1,000 words per chapter, it would be about uh about 60 chapters long, right? Somewhere around there.
Ooh, you're talking. Well, the guy who did the about the samurais. Forget his name. James
Oh,
something.
yeah, I know you're talking Shogun.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's a good book.
it's like 600, 700 pages.
No, no, no. Well, yes, but no, because this will only be about 60,000 words. So you're looking at, well, I don't know how many pages that would be, but no, it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be Shogun
You said
size.
60 chapters. I'm like, well,
Well,
wait a minute.
but it only had 1,000. Only had 1,000 words because
I, I can't say nothing in 1,000 words that's limited to one. I have to.
James Clavel.
Yep, James Clavell or something.
Clavel, yeah, Clavel. By the way, Fluffacus, if you have not read Shogun by James Clavel, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, but you ready to settle down for a month or two?
You know, actually, once I picked it up, I actually burned through it because it was such a good story.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
and it was the hardest part I think for me was uh the Japanese. But once I figured out what that was, how to say it, pronounce it, I think that's what gave me the motivation to read faster through it. Was once you get past the figuring out how to pronounce the Japanese words, then it's just easier. But yeah, no, it was a good book. I was so disappointed after I read the book. I actually learned that it was a mini series on TV, so I was like, "Oh man, I'm gonna go! I gotta get this." So I found it. I I went home and watched it, and I was so disappointed because it was not anywhere close to as good.
oh yeah, they have to cut stuff and add stuff.
Yeah. But anyway, so back to the outline here. Yeah, so 60,000 words. For me, that would be about 60 chapters, 1,000 words per chapter, somewhere around there. It might be less, but 60,000 words is about what most mystery books should be, uh, to get picked up usually. And so Act One is basically broken up to the intro, the rising action, and then whatever the third one is. Where'd it go? Crisis and falling action. So that's typically how it's broken up. By the way, I picked up this outline on the internet. I was like, book outline or novel outline or whatever. And so I picked it up and I just kind of started filling out some of the stuff. And then I got to some points where I'm like, I don't even know what to put here. Like, primary source of stakes and tension. What the heck am I supposed to put there? The characters' head, mental space, and I was like, what is going on here? Why do I need to know this?
Yeah.
But once I started filling it out and getting it into this somewhat of a shape that it is right now, I started realizing that what we have here for Act 1 is not enough. And that's kind of what this is right here, breaking it down to. Because, the Chapter 1, the intro, basically takes up, the first 2 bullet points, maybe, of the outline. And as it goes down the list of the outline, at some point, I'm going to reach the end of this first act without hitting 15 chapters, aka 15,000 words.
Yeah.
And so to me, that was kind of, because that's how I know how much I'm going to write and how big of a project is actually I'm pretty good on telling what the size of the story is or needs to be or is going to be. And so when I started reading this outline, I'm realizing that this first act is not going to get me to 15 chapters. and
Yeah.
that's kind of where it is right now, and that's one of the things I feel is also probably a problem with outlining. But
No, I get that.
so have you looked it over at all? Do you have any?
I have no comments any one way or the other as far as the way it's flowing and the content. Guess I'm used to doing it a little bit differently. I should dig mine out for next time or send it to you and let you look at it.
Yeah, that would be interesting to look at. Because, like I said, I am all new to this outlining stuff. If it wasn't for Renum, Flufficus, and I think one of the other DJs came in here and was throwing out ideas,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have had even this much content because I just get a blank stare and looking at this. It's like it's like being in school again, when you have to write the book report and you have a blank piece of
Yeah.
paper. You're like, I don't know what's right. You just stare at the blank page and like things. But yeah, no, it even like getting even if you came to me and said, "Here, I want you to write a story," and I have two comments to make. If you came to me and said, here's a story, I want you to write, here's the theme," chances are I could probably do it. The reason is because of part 2 to that.
Yeah.
Is that I do not believe writer's block is a thing. And it goes kind of back to what we were talking about earlier with the creative well. This is going to sound egotistical, but I feel my creative well is pretty deep and broad, and I can generally pull out any kind of story. And on top of that, I have come up with a method of getting past the writer's block, and that's kind of why I say it doesn't exist, because it's mostly in the head of whoever's writing. If me as a writer wrote a particular scene and I got to a point where I'm stuck, chances are that I wrote myself into a corner either by going through the outline and writing into a corner that way, or writing into letting the characters go off on a tangent for some reason and getting themselves blocked that way. In either case, I'm gonna get to let you both on a secret here. In either case, the way out is an explosion, and I'm not saying a literal one, but an explosion of either something outside of the norm comes into the scene and disrupts everything. That kind of explosion. And 9 out of 10 times, even if you don't keep what you're writing, it gets you past that particular stump. Now, that's not to say that there are not other methods to getting past, being stuck, but that's just mine. And that's why I say it's generally, in my opinion, the writer that got them into that particular spot. So,
Yeah.
what do you do when you get stuck on a particular scene or sentence?
I just step away from it. So I asked you the other day, I asked you a question and you answered it. And I asked you that question because I was kind of at that point. I asked you, I said, when you write a book, do you write it chronologically from 1 through the end? And you said yes.
Right.
And so what I was asking for is because I was at this point that I was just stuck. I didn't like the way it was going. The words that were coming out of my brain, I just didn't like what was happening. So to clear my brain of the train wreck, I moved on to a different chapter.
Gotcha. Yeah,
And
works too.
And so that was why I asked that question. And I was just wondering what other people do, and it worked for me in that case. And but yeah, if I get the thing is, you can't get bogged down if you just sit there you're not gonna power through something
Right.
and get the results you want. You know, if you just step away, do something else, close that book, write on another book.
Right.
Or if you know you've got this topic for another chapter and you've got some ideas that's been brewing in your head, set aside what you're doing and go put some of those words down on paper.
Yeah. Oh,
And so that's the way I deal with it.
excellent. Yeah, no, that works. Yeah, Fluffica says that she wants to try not writing chronologically. More power to you both. For some reason,
Yeah.
I cannot do it. You know, I don't think I cannot think of an example that I've ever written out of chronological order. It might have happened, but it might have done it in a way where I didn't realize it. And the reason why I can't do it is because I have to get the characters from point A to point B, not to control them, but to make sure that I hit the beats that the story needs to hit. You'll hear me say it a lot when I'm talking about writing, how things have beats, and to me that's what they are, because you want to take the reader on a roller coaster, right? And you want to have dips and valleys and twists and turns and everything like that. And to me, when I write, it has sort of a cadence to it almost. And so you can't have that if I skip ahead, because you don't know, well, to me anyway, I don't know what's going to happen by the end of that chapter that's going to change either the tone or the beat for the next chapter or the several chapters later on. So to me, that's why I can't do that. And I do understand stepping away. Absolutely. I would do that over skipping ahead anytime. But yeah, man.
Yeah, I don't know. That's part of that, what I was talking about, refreshing the well.
Yep.
You know, sometimes, you know, because I've tried powering through, you know,
No,
I got a chapter and then the more I wrote, the worse it got or became, you know.
I'm with you 100% on that. Don't power through it, because you're just going to write it, you know, crap basically, and it's not going to, or your heart's not going to be in it, or there's going to be problems with it, or, you know, yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. Don't power through it. Fluffica says, I've always written chronologically, but that's because my stories usually start as dreams. Then as I write, they turn into TV shows in my head. I follow you. You say stuff like that, and I'm with you. But if I have it outlined, maybe I can try. Yeah, I mean, give it a shot, Flufficus. I would say that don't start off with the outline this in depth. I think I bit off more than I could chew with this one. I do like Wesley's version of outlining, where it's just kind of writing would you say, writing stuff that matters basically.
Yeah. So let me I got mine pulled up an outline here. I just want to, without spending too much of time, like, I don't do mine in act ones, or I guess I don't use the word act.
Well, so
But
I
do have,
I actually added that
like,
later, because in writing a book you have to have those three things basically.
so here's the way I did it. When you look at it, it doesn't say act. It says Roman numeral 1, introduction, which yours says intro.
Right.
And then I kind of put a note for myself there in bold, opening image. And then I've got chapter 1. And then below it, I got a note that says theme started above.
Mm-hmm.
So chapter 1's kind of setting the theme and the tone for the book. And then I got the word setup. And then I got B, which is chapter 2. And then I got C, which is chapter 2, part 2. Then I got Roman numeral 2, catalyst. And then I got chapter 3, 4, 4.2. And then I got basically in the catalyst, in the middle of that section, I got like debates, because there's always going to be where the protagonist is debating his decisions.
Right.
You know, do you do this or do you do that? Do you go help the people that are trapped in the whatever, you know? So there's a debate that goes on in your story.
Right.
And so I put that comment there. Then I go to chapter 3, and what I call it, with the way I write, with protagonist, antagonist, where you've always got this cat and mouse game. So that's what it says there for the title. And then I intro the B story because I always put a B story in my A story.
That's funny
I
because
don't ever just stick to an A. I'll add a B story if that's like you're going down the road to rescue this person, and then along the way a farmer asks you to go out in the field and kill a wolf.
right. That's pretty
You
funny
know, so
because I actually think I put that in here somewhere. The whole cat and mouse thing.
yeah.
Where did I put that? I think I might have
And
actually
then
moved
part 4 in mine
Oh, yeah,
is
here it
like
is.
past hauntings, things that the protagonist is trying to get over with that's affected his past, or it's part of his past that's affected him, and part of, you know, it's just like life. Life is about, you know, people getting past things they've had in their life that's made them the way they are and becoming a better person.
it. Right.
And then, you know, the next section 5 is breakthroughs. And, you know, just when there's a breakthrough, well, there's going to be a setback also. Only
Right.
temporary, but there's always, you know, it's like 5 steps forward and then 1 step back, but then you keep going forward again.
Right. Well, that's the like the pinch point and all that stuff. You know, the inciting incident.
It's some of the same stuff, but
Yeah.
I'm not 1,000 word. I can't talk to my son in 1,000 words. You know, I have to. You know what I mean? If I average my chapters, I'm right around 3,000, 25 to 3,500 words per chapter.
Gotcha. I think maybe where that 1,000 comes in is that writing a short story. So I've kind of got it dialed down on what needs to happen per chapter, and so I'm pretty consistent with that. Well, Wesley, I appreciate you for jumping on tonight. I really do appreciate you jumping in and talking to me about it, and you know, Flufficus as
Cool.
well.
Enjoyed it. It's the first time I've ever done this.
Yeah, man, I hope to have you back sometime. We can definitely dive in more into writing and outlining, and maybe even work some on you know, on an outline or something. We'll
Yeah,
see.
we should write a book together.
I would do that in a heartbeat. Anybody that wants to do like a collab, I'm all for it. But, I mean, because Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman were my you know, my favorite authors growing up. I always wanted to write a book with somebody just to see how it was. So I'm all for that. So yeah, Wesley, thank you for coming in. I appreciate it, man. I know it's getting late there.
To Flufficus also.
Yeah, Fluff.
Appreciate her interaction and sticking with the stream. And
she's a good human.
so,
She's a good
Yeah.
human. Thank you, Flufficus. Thank you for any other lurkers out there. I appreciate you guys. Wesley, you have a good night. And I will see you Saturday, 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Do some gaming, and we'll see what goes on then. Have a good night, guys.
I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. I'm going to show them a world without you.